I could make it so I don't have to pay the full 2 months, that would be helpful. But I just wanted y'all to know that I've sent the applications to them, and they're both interested in moving in and filling spots pretty soon. And we all know them and kind of know their, like, not selling me quite as much, but know the vibe and where they're coming from. So that's cooking.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, bouncing off of that note, we really don't have to worry about people moving in here. Tacky is like ready to move in like at any time. Allison, her lease is ending in August, and she put feelers out to move in here. There's 2 people that just found us on Instagram, and both of them would have got applications, so that's not a problem as far as how this week has been feeling. I would like to start changing gears. And start off firstly by recognizing what you said, Hunter, that I think the word you used is tired of talking about this drama. That's cool, that's where you're at. And like, honestly, like, I think I had a little bit of that attitude going into the temple meeting that we had of, is this just going to be more talking and going nowhere? But like, to be real with y'all, like being on the phone for the last meeting was really hard. I didn't think that meeting was gonna happen until me and Megs got home, and it was really like just not good to be on the phone for that. It sucked, honestly, and it felt really awkward. So I didn't really have the space to say anything. And I think we do need to talk about this more, because I care about this community, and because like I genuinely care about how everybody else is doing and going through this transition, and really understanding and like, what is the basis for all of this? What are we doing? What have we been doing? What do we think we're doing? And what are we actually going to do? The way I see it, is that like, not the way I see it, the way I feel it, I don't feel comfortable with love asking Sebastian to leave. I don't feel, that's true, I don't feel comfortable in a community that agreed upon the basis of trust, and that not existing anymore, and everyone just sitting by and letting that happen, myself included. I am not excluding myself from any of these reflections. I personally have just been like going through a lot of interpersonal stuff, like almost at the exact same time as all of this community stuff has happened. So I think like my internal exploration was taking so much of my ability to be present, that when all of this communal stuff was happening, I did just want to like get away, and just I had so much to deal with on my own. And I realized that like I got to the point of dealing with my stuff to see that part of my stuff is not feeling empowered to like stand up and like and be fully in this community, and like have that, honestly, the vulnerability to have a voice. For me, like, it's confusing to say, but to put myself out there, and that's what I'm doing right now, putting myself out there, just gonna like speak my mind, And like I understand that maybe everybody will disagree with me, and that's completely okay. But like, if Sebastian has to leave, in my heart, celebration is over. And I'm not saying celebration as a living situation that grows food and does beautiful art and like has parties and things like that, but I mean like the heart of the spiritual work that we're all doing here. And like I have no like plans for my life. Like I have no career goals. I have no interest essentially in going out into the world and doing anything besides what I have always envisioned celebration to be in that eco village, or not even in future tense, like right here, what we're doing now, doing the work and meditating together and like being on this planet as human beings and figuring out what the fuck that means to all of us. Like that's the only place that I really want to put my energy into, and like that's the only place I can like imagine raising a child, and like imagine like fucking putting my life into an organization that is not, it's a family, you know? And like all of that becomes completely void and null, and like it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for my heart if this situation essentially is going in the way that we left it at the end of the last meeting. Like we need to continue looking at this, and like we need to continue confronting this, and like each of us learning, and like not making it about a Sebastian and love thing. Like this is not a Sebastian and love thing, this is a community thing, and each of us can learn a lot about how we are showing up to this conflict. And like I realized that like I was taking a bystander. I was like, this isn't my thing, like I don't have the space to talk, this isn't like everything's being said that I would maybe say, you know? And like I wasn't taking like accountability or like full identity as like a leader in this community. And what we all need to be doing is that liminal leadership. All of us are leaders in this circle. All of us need to speak, especially when something like this is happening, especially when someone is like when two people are considering leaving because they can't live together, you know? Like that's like the entire world out there is a mess because people can't figure out how to live with each other, you know? And like this is not me like taking any action one way or another, but like I'll just be like super clear. Like I can't envision myself being in this community past the end of this year, or like much sooner than that, you know, if we can't like work through this problem in a way that feels good in my heart, you know, in a way that like I think the vibes I've been feeling this whole week at both houses is like separation. And I have fully, like I said in my check-in, I've been taking that for myself and doing that for myself, and like I have been respecting everyone else who needs to do that. Like I'm not saying that it's bad that we've all been taking our space, but I think that's coming from this like open wound that's just like being walked around, and like the elephant in the room. You know, like this is, and I spoke to Julian about this briefly, I guess yesterday, is like I'm not worried about filling Sebastian's spot. Like it's not about like the room or like having new energies come in, because that has happened. It's been beautiful. It will always happen in a community, having those energy shifts and things. But like somebody leaving in the way that like, you know, Megs is leaving versus the way that Sebastian would be leaving is a huge difference, and that makes all the difference to me. I don't know what I feel about the virus as anything other than a test for me personally, for each of us here, for each individual, a test, you know, a test to see how we react to this worldwide phenomenon. I'm not like scared of getting it or anything, but I'm viewing like it's this intense pressure. It just manifested as a virus, but it's this intense and unignorable pressure that has just occurred on this earth. This earth mother has given us this test to go through, each of us, and like as a community, this is the make or break. This is when we have this opportunity to level up and like really embody and like live all the things that we are talking and live what we feel in our hearts, or we can continue grasping on to the way that we've always lived, and by grasping on, it'll crumble into our hands, and I'm not going to stick around and watch that happen. I'm either going to be here and I'm going to fight until the very end, and I'm going to make sure that this place embodies what I think it has the potential to, or like out into the unknown, and that's good too for me. So that's the thing. And the last thing I want to say, and I really just realized this super recently, like probably yesterday, I think, but you know, like my relationship with you, love, throughout all of this, I feel like has deepened. Like I feel like you have opened up, and I understand you maybe even slightly, but like more than I did before, you know, really. And like I heard your voice, and I was really happy to out here, like even when you raised your voice, I was like, damn, oh my god. You know, go off on Sebastian. If he's yelling, you yell right back at him. Go ahead. But I feel I need to publicly repent because I made a mistake by consenting to let Sebastian leave the meeting and have that letter read without him in the presence. I know I made it clear that I didn't want that to happen, and I know he made the decision to leave completely on his own. But like looking back, I feel like it was a horrible decision, collectively. And I felt in that moment that I wanted to support love in being able to express certain reflections that usually we don't get to hear. But now I realize is like, if it's not a reflection to the actual person being reflected on, it really isn't. It's almost like, it's almost vulnerable, but it's not, you know. And then it just creates this like really isolating, you know, this destructive kind of event that I feel occurred through that. You know, like if you have reflections on a person, but you can't look them in the eye and sit there and tell them, I don't think good came out of it in this situation. I can't say if there was ever good in it. And all of this, you know, stems from me feeling that I didn't realize this, like I said, till yesterday, but this is something that, love, I think this is your year. This is your year to see this really deeply in whatever way that makes sense to you. But like I'll echo what me and Lydia sent, and that you accepted the cue for growth is avoidance of reflection, of interpersonal reflection, you know. And that was specifically with your relationship with Hunter and the way that it affected other people. But in this situation, it's your relationship with Sebastian and other people. And like, I'm not saying for you to believe a single word, a single syllable that anybody else says about you. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that I don't feel, not that you're not trying, but like, I don't feel the trust in the collective to reflect back on you, you know. And it's just that. And I will take you up. I do want to go through the Enneagram because I know you offered that, and I thought that was a super reasonable thing. So I would love to do that, just to like learn more about you on my own, with you from your own words, you know. But like, this is all a convoluted way to say that like, trust. Like, I don't know where that's playing in this situation, and if we can't identify it today, tomorrow, soon, then I don't know how celebration is gonna have a foundation. Because love and trust are the same. Love and trust are like synonyms on the spiritual level, not obviously linguistically, but on the spiritual level, it is. I guess that's all I'd like to say. I know it was a lot. Hi, Johnny.
What's up? Good to see everybody.
Let's say hello.
I just wanted to come say, hey, I'm gonna hang out, but I have to get to connect with everyone soon.
Yeah, real soon. We're having a sexy farmers party tonight, apparently, if you wanna come dressed up as a sexy farmer.
I gotta find my straw hat.
Okay, we'll be around in the garden between like 5:30 and 9, probably.
And then afterwards, I'm coming over to your house. If you want to still listen to music and chill.
Sure.
Though I can't, come inside.
Okay.
So if we can make that happen, cool. Good.
So good to see you.
You look radiant.
Hey, be for real. What are you doing with your hair these days?
I've done my hair up for like 3 days and I just took it back.
Hey.
That natural sebum is all up in there.
Could be. Happy birthday.
It's so weird.
I know, you're such a hugger.
I can't just actually be here. Like I'm not.
We love you, Johnny.
More hydrogen peroxide.
Namaste to the
Yeah, those young boys.
The little thing swims in water. And they grow to be like this big.
But I'll be back. We're just moving.
Bye.
Hi Johnny, it's nice to see
Johnny,
you.
give Megan a hug for me.
Okay.
Me too.
I'll give everyone from everybody.
No,
Yeah.
separate hugs. No, I want
Okay, I'll
a hug specifically from me. My hug, and like try to embody me when you give her my hug, and like embody Meg's when you give that hug.
I embody all celebration with the
I
third
will
one.
be
Yeah.
in it for the rest of the afternoon until she comes back. I'll be ready to transmit.
Where are you getting with that?
Transmit the energy from all of you to her.
Thank you.
trying so much. Yeah. What a good boy, Johnny.
Tattoo needles are on the way.
What? I was like, stop.
Oh my god.
Stop.
Anybody wants to share this?
I want to share it with you because I don't want to be greedy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you want to look at them, they're so silly.
It literally looks like we're three people. Like that's a person.
That's me, like, standing in.
That's nice.
Yeah. No, I doubt it. Like I said, those
That's what you use. Or was used.
yeah, and then like the thicker needles.
Oh, that's awesome. The one part.
I put them in the album.
She should see the one that she took of you wearing a hat. It's a really good one. Because she's wearing your hat and you took a picture.
Sweet.
This is cool.
I can't think it would. I mean, it would be easier with a bigger needle, but I can just like.
Have you taken a gander?
These are beautiful. No, I'm not.
Oh, they're nice too.
It's so.
They're nice.
I can't tell you 100%.
Right there.
How
We have a bunch of them in there.
These were the ones that I kept.
Yeah, we can definitely do it.
What do you
That's weird. That's you took that.
That's a good picture. Yeah.
So y'all can just
go ahead and order?
Yeah.
It worked out. I did it like that first.
I would like
A little bit because it was right on the rim.
I don't know. You can keep the other ones if you want.
Your hair was so long.
I know.
Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, honestly, it's funny. It's like, this has happened like both times I've cut my hair short. It's like right when it gets to be actually like, oh, her hair's starting to get long, and then I'm like,
Thank you for the advice.
So funny how differently hair is growing.
I just stick straight up.
Straight up.
I know. No, I knew this would happen. I told you before.
Mine's not long at all.
have to, yeah.
Maybe it
I
is.
looked at Jade's too. Jade's is just like this.
Really.
Yeah, it really is.
Her hair, their hair is very long.
Don't get disappointed.
Yeah.
Like Kentucky.
I have calyx in the back of my head. Like right here. I have like a calyx and it all sticks up. Spiral.
Where's that bell at?
Have you been at Independence? That photo is just mine, but there's the community one there.
Thank you, Jules. Alright, let's reconvene.
Okay, I know you had your hand up. I got kind of cut off by Johnny, and I just want to give a good ending to this. I know I talked for like 10 minutes or 20, I don't know. But just to be very clear, I am in no way doing a individual reflection on you, love. I know I said your name a lot, but this is me opening this up to the community, and this is a communal reflection, and this is like us talking about like really what are we doing here.
Did you get it? time? You didn't make it?
What?
Did you get it in time? Hell yeah, you still Oh, well, my grandparents told me that. Are you doing the water shirt?
Sure.
I'd be hot.
It is actually quite hot.
Oh no.
Okay. I just wanted to respond to a few things because, like, I'm in no way against. I think I've said this before.
I can't hear you.
Okay. I'm in no way against reflection. That's not something I'm adverse to. I think the letter thing was like a unique example because one, I was uncomfortable with it being in letter form and frustrated that I couldn't actually talk to you guys about what was said in the letter, which conjured a lot of different feelings and way too much time to like think about what was said, and that was partially on my wrongdoing. But yeah, so that's kind of a unique example in my perspective. And then also, like, just in regards to reflection, I'm uncomfortable when people bring up things that we have not had a conversation about within recent history. So if you want to talk about my relationship with Hunter, then I would be more open to having that conversation as a group if the person that's doing the reflection is talking to me beforehand about my relationship. That's what I was saying a few meetings ago, is just like actually checking in with the person. I think is a respectful way to do it. And to me, like, I acknowledge that trust is important. I think I've said before that the way I look at trust is a little bit different. It's not about trusting the individual. Like, I trust you to do whatever you're gonna do. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a good or bad thing. I trust that the divine is working through you, and whatever you're doing is providing lessons for you and the people around you. And the way I respond to those things isn't necessarily just out of trust, but something that's more, like, I recognize is way more important to me, is respect. And I mean that in, like, the more traditional sense of respect. And I've felt personally that there's like an advocacy for trust, and I hear that you don't feel like I'm trusting to be reflected on. In the same way, like, the Enneagram is a great example. Like, I feel there's distrust for my own perspective of myself, which I can imagine is extended into the conversation and the reflection that I had on Sebastian, about not trusting the perception of self and that sort of thing. And so yeah, it goes both ways, but I just like respect is the main thing that I recognize is most important to me. Because I trust everything. I trust that everything is happening just as it needs to happen. But my response is not just going to be, oh, I trust it. You know, like, I feel that I'm here to question and like contemplate things on a deeper level. But beyond that, I want to speak to the fact that me reading that letter was not a version of vulnerability. Me reading that letter was to be checked by the group, so that when I reflected on Sebastian, I wasn't like throwing these things like out of the water that he didn't need to hear if it was like, you know, coming out of left field. Like, if everybody felt that the things that I was saying were completely misguided and misplaced, then I'd like make peace with it and be done with it. Sebastian doesn't need to, like, well, I'm not going to tell you what you need, Sebastian, but I don't need to reflect on someone in that way, especially to the level that I was reflecting on someone, the level that I was reflecting. Like, to me, that could have been checked at the door if it was misguided. That's the angle that I was coming at. It wasn't an aversion to vulnerability, and I was completely willing to have that conversation afterwards, but the meeting was led down a different path that I didn't feel that I had space to do anymore. And
So that being said, I just wanted to address those few things, and just to clarify my perception and my feelings, why there are certain reactions to things that might be interpreted differently than how I am displaying them, or how I'm intending to display them.
Is anyone else in queue? I just wanted to ask a question. Do you feel like your self-perception is more refined than the reflections of other people onto you? And then secondly, do you respect us enough to see you for who you are?
More refined than I don't have a yes or no answer to that.
That's fine.
I think there are certain things that you might see in myself that are there that I don't see, and I think there are things in myself that I feel and trust that are there that you don't see.
Yes.
And then I respect your perception. I respect that you are an individual seeing through a lens that has a connection to something deeper, but still are ultimately coming from an individual standpoint and a somewhat outside standpoint, especially given the kind of relationship that we have. So it's not, I don't disrespect your opinion. I just, for me to really be able to see where you're coming from, like a one-on-one conversation is a place where I can be far more receptive, and I often just have difficulty speaking up for myself and get frustrated, and by the time I'm ready to say something, people are not listening anymore. It's not what we're talking about. So large group settings are a difficult space for me to be in. So it's respect, but also knowing that you really give yourself time to see where I'm coming from, and I do the same for you. That feels like respect to me. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I actually have a third question. You said it before. You said sometimes I question myself.
What?
You said I question myself. Before you were talking about just your internal workings, and I just wanted to ask, do you feel like you're still questioning I guess your decision to what Enneagram number you are? Do you feel like you're still questioning that within yourself? Is it firm? You feel like I am this or I'm that, or is it still wavering? That's all. I just wanted to reflect and ask you that.
Actually, recently through reflecting on it, I am completely relinquishing attachment to any of the Enneagram numbers, because just the way this is played out has kind of you guys don't trust me. I'm disgruntled with what happened in the temple, and honestly, if I had to say, it's both. If I had to pick one, it's both. Because I know acting as a 1 is not integrated for me, so that doesn't feel right. I know acting as 7 feels integrated and feels like my higher self. And acting, I don't need to get into it, but it's just relinquishing those things, and with everything in my life, and I think this is my ultimate lesson, that it's never been black and white. It's never been clear cut. I'm literally in the middle of everything. My dosha, my astrology, everything is down the middle, or completely back and forth. There's no clear cut answer. So it just relinquish the attachment to
It's okay.
to deciding.
No, thank you for that. I just wanted to hear that, and also I think there is a need. It's okay to for you to express how you perceive yourself. That's the vulnerability I think we're trying to come to as a community, is you being able to express your internal quandaries and your internal feelings and your internal being, to the point where we can properly reflect on you if you feel like we're not, and that's why I brought up these questions. I just wanted to see where you were at internally, and just to see, just to ask.
I just had a question. You have.
See, I don't want to interrupt the flow, but like really my intention and like really what I wanted to bring up is a conversation about the community. Like I don't necessarily want to rehash the things that Love has already told us and go through that. Like I don't want this to become us asking Love more questions and them feeling like they have to keep talking and proving something to us. That's not. I want to see from everyone else, how do we feel about the most basic nugget in all of this, was Sebastian asking if Love trusts his intentions here, and them replying no. That's the point we're at, and let's go from there. That's all I want to say.
I just wanted to ask a simple question. I never stay with what you're saying, Max. In regards to you, Love, when you're saying that you're always in the middle, I wonder if it's the middle or is the gray area.
Well, see, you and I just look at it completely different. So
Well, I'm just throwing a question.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing a question. If you get reactive about it, it's your thing. But I'm just saying, like, if you're not certain about things, how are you ever gonna get certainty? And if 7 people unanimously are reflecting back at you, yes, we have seen these patterns in you, and we have checked what the Enneagram is saying, and we feel it goes along with you. What's the problem being receptive about that?
Well, I'm not unreceptive. I'm not going to own it as my truth just because you feel that it's yours, which is totally fine. I'm not being
It's not
reactive
yours. It's
at all.
not ours. It's everybody's, because it became
No, I'm
the community.
saying every individual, yours, not you, yours. Like
Yeah, but in this time you're playing a game as a community, as an entity completely. So if the whole entity is seeing this particular aspect and reflecting upon it, didn't we say that we were going to consider that above any one-on-one reflection that anybody can have? We were going to honor the reflection of this big mirror, because what we have created here is a mirror that we said, according to what I understood from the very beginning, is a big mirror that we're going to use because we know that we cannot trust one-on-one that deeply. So we use that big mirror to show us our own thing, because then it's not about one single person and what they have against you or what their opinions they have. Is the communal reflection on yourself.
which is comprised of multiple individual perspectives, which happen maybe. I don't think it's unanimous, but even if it is, it's like it happens to be similar, or it happens to be a unanimous decision. I don't.
It doesn't need to get an answer. In this moment, I just like to ask Julie, what's your standpoint on what Pax is bringing about?
The standpoint of love viewing.
Not about specifically a person, but as a community. If what is happening, this crisis that is happening, is actually because it wasn't clear to me last meeting that this was that actually the continuity of celebration was going to be interrupted until it became a reality. I kind of sensed it because I sensed that an individual like Lydia wouldn't stand for it, and therefore I considered it, but I never knew for sure until after the meeting. Me and Lydia talked, and she mentioned what she had, their observations. So the continuity of celebration now was in question. It has been in question ever since, and that pains my heart, because it's one thing about me leaving and just like you guys continue doing this thing, but the fact that probably celebration can break away, dissolve, it seems to be right now a possibility as well. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Hope not. Trust not. But what would it be if that is the case? If because of what we are experiencing we're going to break up? What is it that you think is necessary? what have we been
I think
lacking?
you're
that's
just
it.
let him say what he feels about what I said, without all the words before. Please.
I mean, in terms of like celebration, and if celebration dissolves or not due to this, I truly don't feel like it unfolded in a very fluid way. I don't think it actually unfolded in a way that's truthful, because from my perspective, I think you, Sebastian, are coming from a place of your truth, and you're only trying to do the best. I mean, you've given up your entire being to have what we have here. Without you putting forward you as a whole person, shit, we might not have even gotten this far. And then, I guess looking into how will celebration continue even after Sebastian leaves, for me, I'm going to continue to garden. I'm going to continue to hold that space as a community. Honestly, if everyone here leaves, I'll continue celebration on my own. I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to continue that message in my garden, and continue that message throughout my life. Because I've learned so much here. It's unfathomable. You can't even put it into fucking words. So, like, you either are gonna come with me on this journey and, like, we're gonna continue as a group here, or everyone's gonna go do their own thing, and I will continue to keep the community alive, and I will continue to grow food, and I will find new people who will continue to enjoy life, because we're enjoying life. Everyone is. And I see that in each single one of you, every single person. You're enjoying life. You're enjoying what we have here together. You're enjoying, like, this heaven on earth we fucking created by coming together. And, like, that's not gonna stop, because I know it can manifest through me, doing and being. It can come through me, and I've already done that through the garden, and I'm gonna continue to do that, because I know it's possible, and I know I've already been there. So that's how I feel, and that's like my core. And so celebration is never dead or gone to me. It's always there.
Thank you for that. Honestly, thank you for owning your power.
Can I say something?
Yes.
You just said, Julian, heaven on earth that's being created here, which I agree. It's at least the potential for heaven on earth. And I feel like what's bigger than, okay, do you love, trust Sebastian, or do you and Hunter, whoever, I don't know all the details, whoever, does anybody not trust anybody? And if the answer is yes, that's one thing, but the bigger thing is, do you want to trust that person? Are you willing to do what it takes to build trust again? And if so, what does that look like? Because in creating heaven on earth, what better place to learn how to trust one another? Because is there going to be another time in your life where there's a potential you'll lose trust in somebody? Absolutely.
Yes.
Are there millions of people who have had trust broken and they've rebuilt it? Absolutely. So it's possible. It just comes down to if you're willing to or not.
Yes.
And if you're not willing to, then there's no point in trying to hold up a mirror to anybody, because they're not going to do it. So I feel like that's really what comes down to, is that you want to rebuild trust, and what does that look like? And also, if somebody doesn't want to, then it's to continue to poke at that point on somebody is only going to make it worse, and it's also going to be leaking your own energy instead of doing your own personal work. So.
Thank you for that.
So I think I'm gonna do my check-in now. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.
See you, bro. See you, love. Did you? I want to ask just popcorn questions. Not everybody has to go. Just very quickly, can anybody, if like Johnny comes, says what happened in celebration? Can anybody just say kind of like briefly what happened? Why did Sebastian leave, if that was the case? Anybody wanna?
I would say it's a choice. Like, it's totally conscious, whatever happens here, whatever each individual takes away from it, like, we chose this, ultimately. Yeah, trust is a choice, ultimately. So we chose to stop, That's what it feels like.
Anybody else? Anybody else has like a brief summary of what happened?
I would just say it's a wound that couldn't be healed, or wasn't given time to heal.
Maybe that you couldn't agree to disagree. People were all holding on to our own thing really hard. And that for like whatever reason, like these like opposing views couldn't be simultaneously held.
We've been trying, honestly. That's the thing. It's like this is an ongoing thing, and this is the climax of something that's been really going on since the beginning, honestly. And that inability to agree to disagree is really what it stems from.
Right.
The reason that nobody is willing or able to summarize very quickly, there will be misunderstandings, and that was the first flag I received this week. I came to realize through two persons that came forward towards me, which was Megs and Pax, when they had the time to reflect, and I came to realize that it's really nobody's understanding what's going on to the fullest. And because no one is truly able to understand and think it's more of a personal situation between me and love, or something like that, we're losing perhaps one of the biggest lessons that we can have as a commune, which it has come to me when I actually, as I said, I wrote a little paragraph when I intended or put the intention in me to go into and say, okay, so what happened? What am I going to say when I'm going to when I'm going to leave? I'm going to put something on, and we're going to put something or post on Instagram or something about me leaving, and what would I say? When I started looking into that, and through a chain of revelations and insights, what came up, it's truly meaningful. So I like to draw and be pictorial, but so you can start understanding the situation. So we have a circle, the yin and yang, right? You have the positive and the negative, and then you have the seed for each one of them and each one of them. So this is positive, this is negative, this is negative. So basically you have two ways in which we are doing the world right now. So we either have democracy that, basically has up to now been dictatorship. It's a politics. So we have a dictator, we have a person that decides, a leader that decides what things need to be done. What is in the other side of this circle? What is the complete opposite to this? The complete opposite is anarchy. Anarchy and chaos. So we say we don't want to have a leader. We don't want to have a leader. And what is the reason of having a leader? Having a leader is because it makes the actual choice of making yes or no much easier. And keep also in mind the word council, a council of people. How does a council work? So with that said, you have the dictator and you have the chaos, basically chaos. Either you are, that's how humanity has been fluctuating back and forth. But this time and age is required for something different, and the consciousness has been there to realize the third way. The third way is the middle way, right? And what is the middle way here between dictatorship and anarchy? It's consensus. It's taking every decision that needs to be made and brought up and take whatever time is necessary to look into it impartially, non-personally, and say, and as a group, as an entity, come to a decision. Once a decision has been made, we go into it. So it's time consuming, it's our work. So what we're doing here, we're trying to come up with the third way to the world. We're demonstrating to the world that we don't need dictators and we don't need chaos. That we can actually, each one of us, be the linear leadership. But in order to do that, something like this had to happen. In order to do that, for something like this, a crisis needed to happen. For somebody like Pax to speak in the way, as empowered way that she spoke, as empowered way that you're speaking, my clarity. So in this regard, we need to be aware of the center. So what I wrote about my little statement as of me leaving is, if I and I have a belief, is that unless we live in communion, humanity has no future in this world. If I and I have a belief, is that unless we live in communion, humanity has no future in this world. I'm going to define what a communion is. Communion is people living in close proximity, sharing on common levels of vulnerability. That's my own definition. So if I and I have a belief, is that unless we live in communion, humanity has no future in this world. Communes that don't cater to the individual preferences, but take time to consensus, to the degree that is necessary to arrive to a decision of embracing all aspects, positive and negative. Meaning that prioritizes the well-being of the whole before accommodating for the individual preferences. These communes ought to be constituted by people that are willing to put the world altruism first and their personal preferences second. People who will not remain silent in the face of injustice. The incongruency between this statement and my experience in celebration is what right now is threatening my continuity here. I sent 2 years ago, tomorrow is going to be 2 years ago, I sent a letter, an email to everybody, and I have been mentioned throughout this. There's a very important aspect, an observation, an insight that I had and I shared with everybody. And it's called the Blessed Prisoner. And back then, with that email, did you have the chance to read it? Back then, the Blessed Prisoner is to have the responsibility of what we are coming here to do. And from the very beginning, we agree on this specific fact, not to cater to the individual preferences, not needs, preferences. So what is personal preference? I went deeper into it so that we can understand why personal preference should not be honored in organisms like this. Because remember, we cannot have a dictator, we cannot have anarchy. So we need to surrender something, and that's the personal preferences, so that what we see as a whole is the where we decide to move. And not until we know for sure where we're moving, we're not taking a step. So what is personal preferences? In every situation in life, you have two possibilities. There's the path of least resistance, and there's something new. You know, an experience that is a difficult. So you have the path of least resistance and the other possibility, just to make it simple. Preference means that you have. Preference is what is the known, is something that you have known. And therefore you prefer it. It's like when you go to a Starbucks and you always get a vanilla latte or whatever you get, and you don't try anything else just because that's what you like and you go with it. And that's your personal preference, and nobody has a right to say anything about it. In this world, there's no partiality. You have the right, and that's your free will. But when it comes to us perceiving this earth, Gaia, as an organism, as a living organism, and us being the neurons of this organism, being the cells, the constituting cells of this organism, then we come to realize that the survival of the whole organism is tied up directly with our own survival. And what happens, what is a cancer? If you see what is a cancer, these are the examples that life is giving us. Even a tumor in the brain. What is a tumor in the brain? Nothing else but a cell that decided, I'm going to do my own thing. You know, I want to grow something here, and it just starts to go out, and eventually threatens the whole organism, like what is happening now. You know? So personal preference is choosing the path of least resistance. So what happens is that you have, this is what you know, this is your known, your circle. This is where you're rotating. You're rotating right here in your circle. This is what you know, and you have your preferences, and you have your, personal preferences, you have your dreams. Like, for example, you have this thing with this company, like Megs has the thing with Lisa, and things like that, things that they're, that they had a perception of how their life is going to look, and that fits into that perception. So that's my personal preference, and that's wonderful. You can continue rotating in here, but remember that every choice has either your personal preference or the harder part. But what does that hard part represent? What is the hardship of it is that the unknown. So whatever to the smallest degree to the biggest degree, that little unknown that you didn't consider before is this little bit, 1 centimeter, let's say. That thing that you didn't know. When you take a choice when you have presented two choices and you pick the hardest choice, something new comes into your life. Something that you experience, something that you have never experienced before, and you add this centimeter into here. What happens to the whole circumference? Expands, right? Expands. So you are becoming wider, wiser, wider, because you're confronting situations that are harder. So personal preference, if the whole group is moving somewhere, but that's not where you prefer it to be, surrender comes. Because you're trusting already this group of people that is moving somewhere, and you decided to go along. But if you change your mind somewhere in the way and start carting, because what has been happening for the past 2 months, we started carting to the individual preferences. In every way, in every little way, it started just creeping up. The politeness started creeping up, and we didn't want to cause too much pain to that person, or we didn't want to confront, or we started internalizing things. And we were not getting the feedback out there if what we were internalizing was real or not. So then we started, so that's what's happening. So what I internalize, this is my understanding, and because I don't have a trusting way of really compare this with anybody else, I have to make decisions. I have to, stand my ground, or leave celebration, or do this or do that. So really, if we want to have, a communion, I mean, if there is to be a communion, people need to be their own agents. And how do you find them? Like what happened last weekend to me was one of the most beautiful things that celebration has given to me, and is a soul sister. You know, someone that will not cater to their own personal preferences. In that moment, Lydia was going through the fact that she's going to lose Panther, she's going to lose the situation of living here, but she will not stand for hypocrisy. She will not stand because she has seen that personal preference is not the way to go. Right now, we're not called to live our own little personal lives. The whole mothership is dying, you know, and it's being raped by those motherfuckers, you know, by a group of people that are organized doing it and raping it. The scientists. What do scientists? The difference between scientists? We have scientists, and we see where do scientists come together? They come together on discipline. They have gone through discipline. They have put effort, and after they have come to that, then, you know, results happen. But we, the people with the consciousness, we need that discipline. We have experienced love, we have experienced trust to a certain degree, but we have forgotten the third ingredient, which is, to me, at the beginning it came to me as discipline, but I realized that left up to each one of us, we don't have any discipline. I didn't experience much discipline here. So it's not discipline that is needed in communities. What we're trying to find out is what works in communities. So it's not discipline, it's accountability. We didn't have accountability. You know, you need people to take care of the gardens. We need to grow food. We need to be consistent. If you stop the weeding or let the lettuce go flower, it's gone. All your effort is gone, and that's sort of what has been happening. You know. Love, trust, and accountability is what creates harmony. Accountability with one another. Like the day on the retreat, you might have not noticed, you might have not felt for you that leaving a particular activity itself was a big deal or anything, but realize that you were caught into your own personal preference at that moment. You prefer not to deal with certain things, or you prefer to deal in the way that you're used to do things instead of doing it as a community.
Time check, you've been talking for a long time, and we have an hour until those two are going to leave. So
Okay, thank you.
let's let other people talk.
4, I guess.
3 minutes.
I have something pretty important to talk about, but I'd like to
Finish.
wrap up whatever you have to say so we're not leaving anything.
And I'd like to throw in a couple of pieces to what you're saying, so it's
Yes. Do you want to say it now?
Sure. There was a retreat center that I lived at for several years in California, and it was all based around the way of counsel. And pretty much what you're talking about is the way of counsel, which is the Native American tradition of resolving any issue, which comes down to consensus. But a big part of counsel for the natives was the next 7 generations. Every single, even the example of you go to Starbucks and you get a latte and that's your free will to do it. Well, not really. I mean, yes, it is, but also you have to understand the responsibility, which you can't have accountability without responsibility. So if you've got something to be responsible about and you're not doing it, then you can be held accountable. And for us, our responsibility is taking care of this planet right now and making sure that the next 7 generations, it's going to be taken care of for as well. So if going to Starbucks and getting a latte is going to put that sometime, in the ocean somewhere, you can't do that. It doesn't work for the next 7 generations. So really being intentional about the bigger picture and yes, like you're saying, getting rid of the personal preferences and going, all right, well, maybe it is easier to, do this, but it's not going to be the most beneficial for the collective. Then, I have to be held accountable for that and go, hey, maybe you shouldn't drive this crazy gas guzzling vehicle when we're all here in hybrid, like come along with us. There's a lot of different levels for that, but really being clear on our impact far beyond this lifetime, I think is very important for any time we should counsel in this way and make making sure that we are all looking at our own personal responsibilities, and then making sure that we're held accountable. And when we are held accountable and someone's steps to us, we're receptive to them.
Yes.
So just wanted to throw that in there.
So, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So what happened last week is that I found a sister and I had also found a brother. These are people, to me, why is it so important? Is because these people have embodied the agency. They are agents unto themselves. They have, and that's something that, if I'm not mistaken, this is something that you have crossed recently. Lydia. Based on all of this, in my opinion, I discovered it through all of this. That symbol of being able to renounce and detach yourself and renounce the outcome of the situations, but standing up by the side of truth, that's what it counts. That's being an agent. Same thing that what you're doing right here, you are being an agent. What you brought about and the way you brought about is you have embodied that warrior spirit which we have been lacking, and you're standing for what you see and what you perceive, and you calling things out. That has not been happening. Same thing with you. You are doing it now. So then there is pillars. Whereas before, we started this and it was a fuzziness. But if for the sake of time, and I don't want to extend this with being so concerned about my words, but there has been some leadership from me. There has been. You have perceived it, not direct, but you have seen that there is something that has happened, like a little spinal cord, which I hold that space. Every time there was a new thing coming, like when Megs was gonna bring about the thing about going to Lisa, I was like, here it is. This is something that I'm seeing. So what does that mean? It's like, first of all, there's two things that always need to be voiced. What you perceive as the center, and what would you prefer? I consider that that's the way of really going about these things. It's like, okay, so said it in the statement, being able to conceive open-mindedly, non-personalizing what is being as a counsel to explore every situation that decision is going to intake, and then from there move on. But the first thing, we need to trust each other that the first thing that they're doing, they have the well-being of this entity in mind. That's the first thing. That's where they want to get to the center. So there's actually three things: where they want to be, where we are, and their preference. In between these things, a shape is created. That's the area where we all agree. We are intending to find the truth. We consense and we all try to get as close to it as possible, and then we have our personal preferences. Let's see how we are with those, and then we move on. But the moment you start letting and being quiet about letting someone go with their personal preference, like for example what you call on Julian right now, when it was about, yes, you had the personal preference of going out there. You know that out there you can, these are things that are going to help you in your life, the financial situation.
Just want to make sure you're not going off on...
Yes,
I'm not
it needs to be, I asked for 30 minutes, so I need to be able to, but thank you, I embrace it.
With all of...
So what has happened, as I said, there was a spinal cord, and of course when I brought about, I was looked as I was trying to get my way. Oh, Sebastian is bringing out this thing, the negative aspect. For example, the day that we went about going to Lisa's, I mentioned, like, we're going to have this very organized working period, but we haven't had ever since a working period as organized here. This is our present moment. Over there is the future, and you're putting the future before taking care of the present moment. Yes, we can integrate both things, but in the moment, what I was saying, what I was coming about, it was not my personal preference, my intention. Simply, it's like, hey, I'm bringing about this, but then everybody is like, oh, what do you mean? Like, you're trying to get your way. Everybody is like, oh, Sebastian is speaking. Sebastian is not yielding, but it's not personal. You were internalizing something, but as of now, and therefore, that's the particular aspect. That last meeting, when I said that if the trust that is between love, if love cannot see the clarity and the trust that how I'm putting all of this in here and nobody else sees it, then I'm wasting my time here. But then the realization was to recognize the complexity of this, that we haven't looked deeper enough to see that we people were not understanding. And as of now, based on what has happened and what, for example, the reason I mentioned, you two, is that with you two, I know that I'm not going into a situation like this. I know there's already 3 pillars. There's already Lydia, there's Zach, and there's me. And these 3 pillars are gonna create this tension. The agents, creating that tension and holding each other and knowing that here's where we're going. We are not putting a personal preference. So crossing that line and coming to that point where you have that kind of trust that I have for these people, from that trust I know that everything is possible. That I can trust these people absolutely and put my life at risk for them, for whatever reason, because I know that they cannot go astray. Knowing for certain that someone cannot go astray is very important. And I'm saying going astray is when you hear it talk in reggae music, is that consciously you're acting against the whole earth. You cannot go astray. I know that these people cannot go astray. I know I cannot go astray. So that's the tension and that's the power that these kinds of things happen. But it's the tension between all of these players that are regarded. So far it was only kind of like a triangle kind of thing, and maybe like a tent with only one pole. But the whole emphasis has been that we all need to be a pole into this tent and create the tension. Otherwise, it's going to be fluffy. If you imagine each one of us grabbing a corner, as I said, as pressing many times, and dropping a ball, for that ball to fall in the center, we all have to have the same tension of all the sides. So we need to uphold our truth, our perception, and we need to be and hold each other accountable. You're going off. And if it comes a point, like in a situation where an organism develops a cancer and the cancer is threatening one limb, taking that decision, is this limb going to compromise this whole thing, or are we ready to cut the limb? So it's that definitiveness that we need to be clear. And yes, we love people, and we need to be clear. It's not about love, not stopping to love them. Is that okay? If you want to cut it to your personal preference, we have agreed that here we're not doing that. If you want to do it on your own. And in that way, and we will always be supporting. You can be part of the inner circle, and you can be completely, because the love is always there. But compromising this whole thing, this mission that we have to prove to humanity that we can live together, is very sensitive. And if we don't put our complete self, we're not going to make it as a humanity. Because so far, if you think about it, so far it's been up to them. Up to the people in power, up to the people. If we're going to let them continue to do what they're doing, they're going to run the planet down. So it's up to us to make the change that this world needs. And we know that. But embracing that and living up to that is a decision that you need to make. And it's a decision that we all here need to make. And then after realizing the level of misunderstanding that has transpired in the last meeting, the level of misunderstanding has happened with this whole crisis, me taking that decision, because I didn't hear anybody say what Pak said, what you said that last meeting. It was, yes, I appreciate you and things like that, but you knew, you have been there through the whole process to see where the pitfalls are. And I know that each one of you trust their own intuition and knows where things have gone. So whether we decide to allow it or not is the decision that we need to move from here. Is celebration, even do we have this poll? Is people willing to commit to that, to being those agents, and therefore spreading up this responsibility that has unfortunately fallen upon my shoulders, and I have been desperately trying to share with all of us, because I know that's for sure the only way to go. So, and it has been for me, it's like I've even seen it to me that yes, the way that I come across sometimes might be like a New Yorker. Like I don't go beating about bush, and I know because of time's sake, it's not for not caring, but it's for time's sake, is that we need to be sincere with one another. We need to be clear with each other, and we need to trust each other. The last thing I wanted to say, the personal aspect of what happened, the decision with PAX, is that I also discover through this whole process emotional involvement towards them. And that came about, and that's not skewing my decision, and it's really important for me to clarify this, is that the reason why it was brought about is that it gives the reassurance that yes, someone can look at my positive and negative aspects and still considers a person worthwhile of love. You know, like our dark side should not prevent our loved ones, deter our loved ones. Accepting that level of acceptance, that's where I was even opening that possibility, in the sense that that's where I saw the signs were going. That's where I want the signs. If the signs led me to a ghost town, might that be the case, but I did follow the signs. Personally, for me, one of my characteristics has been that I don't know if it's my curse or if it's my curse or my blessing, but I have been a problem solver. I cannot be in the face of problems and not solving them. So the attraction that was generated by, and the mysteriousness of love's complexity and beauty is such a complex and, you know, entangled kind of complex situation that it drew me to open it up and look at it from many perspectives. And while I was doing that, opening it up and seeing it, then I realized those things. You know, I realized, yes, there is love beyond just the love that the sisterly love. And therefore I came about. Because that is not even our darkest side should not prevent anybody to be attracted to us. It's as good as that is. That's the level of acceptance. I think I have said most of it. Let me just confirm. So yeah, that aspect of solving a complex situation, of that is what draws my personality. But in the other sense is, you know, how I perceive love's was a person to be discovered. You know? So I see those two patterns, and that's the reason why I put one and one together. But I want to clarify that. I wanted to clarify that. So what has transpired from then to here is that I have seen the confusion, and if celebration is not to continue, then the complex thing is that I will be myself catering to an individual preference. Mm-hmm. That's the complexity of it. You see it. Because if the decision was really not on love, the decision was on the commune. If we were able to speak and stand up for what it was just, it was not between us the two. It was the community saying, like, okay, we cannot move forward, like what Paxis was saying. We cannot move forward until we resolve this, and we can resolve it, and we can trust each other, and we can love each other. So for me, it's the decisive factor right now. It has changed because I am not going to sacrifice this incredible thing, knowing that it's going to go downhill. Because I feel that if we don't uphold that tension, if we don't uphold those, become agents ourselves, no matter who comes, things are going. Is this going to be a living situation? And that's what me and Lydia are not wanting to be. We don't want to be in a kind of like a fraternity thing or like a living situation, because we know there's further work to be done, and that living in community takes a lot of time. You know, there's a lot of distraction that happens to us, so we need to have that accountability as well. So then, because of this, my take on this is that if I need to see who here is willing to be an agent, who here is willing to uphold that vibration that we are called to uphold, because it's a vibration that we need to uphold. Right now, nobody else is doing it, and it requires for us to sacrifice that personal preference to uphold that. And it's somewhere that we cannot go below. If we go below, this happens, and we lost the time and we lost the effort that we have put into this. We need to become the agents and uphold the frequency that we are creating, so that as it grows, it becomes sacred geometry. Over 3 people, like perhaps seeing it right now. Pax is over here, and Julian is over here. Somebody else is over here. Then we create more and more complex shapes and beauty by upholding that tension. I remember, so going back to Zach's words, the word council, that's what a council is. It's a pillar, it's a conglomeration of pillars. People are agents unto themselves to determine. But agents to themselves, not to cater to their personal preference, but to always try to see the middle everywhere they go. If people here are willing to be their own agents, if the majority here are willing to be, and whatever it takes to take an oath for this, because I really want nothing less than an oath will do to uphold that. Nothing less than an oath would do, and I want to know who's here that was capable of doing that oath, and whoever is here to do that oath, that will determine whether I stay or not.
Big breath, everybody. Conrad, and then Hunter, and then myself.
Are you sure that I'm second?
What?
Are you sure that I'm second?
I'm sure. He raised his before Sebastian.
I raised mine twice, but
I know, after him.
Okay,
I
cool.
promise.
As long as you know.
Is yours in response to Sebastian? Why don't you go ahead?
Yours is your thing?
Yeah.
Okay. This bigger question that was asked, I think if the community depends on one individual for it to sustain itself, then we didn't do our job in creating a community. I think yes, I have not trusted Sebastian, but also that he doesn't trust me, and he might not trust other people. So just noting that it's a two-way street with this trust thing. And that I've been doing the work on like masculinity and feminine energy and archetypes and what all that kind of stuff means. And just so you know, Sebastian, that being a problem solver is a predominantly masculine trait. So I think you're not alone in that boat.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest like qualm that I have with all this was when that one person's voice was louder than the collectives. That's where I saw disturbances, and that's where I saw my own kind of mistrusting of the whole situation. And that may be due to what Sebastian brought up about people, avoiding conflict, myself included. But I also got to the point where I was stating my truths, and I was standing up for what I believed, and I was being my agent, but it didn't matter. Nothing was changing. One, because I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of debate. Like I said, I think last in the temple, I'm done with debates. So I appreciate your rendition and your explanation, Sebastian. And I think accountability is the most important thing that has been missing. And also, if I'm being honest, it's within yourself as well. And sure, like if I'm seeing it in other people, then that means I have some to know. And again, going back to the bigger question is like, yeah, we have created a lot, and that requires a lot of responsibility. It's not easy to disassemble the yome. It's not easy to just give up on this community garden, to move out. We have a lot at stake. And I say we, and that might be super hypocritical because, I'm not here. But my effort is definitely here. My energy is here. And my vision is here. Was here. It can be past, it can be present. It doesn't matter to me. So that if we have people who will stand up and speak for themselves against, one person, then that's what is needed.
Has that been your role that you're trying to fulfill so far?
What? Be the person to speak up?
Have you taken that paper on your own?
Not in I need to fulfill this, but I think that's just me naturally.
You said that I don't...
Wait, Sebastian.
Yeah, I just need to clarify one thing, but you said that I don't trust you. Yes. But I want to trust you. I have not stopped wanting to trust you.
And I want to trust you, and that's why I feel
but
myself
have I done something to lose your trust? Have I done something to you to lose your trust? Because I know that you have done something to me where I lost your trust, my trust to you. So if you can pinpoint it, bring it up.
I mean, the aspects of how you've conducted yourself in the past, that goes against me. Whether or not it's within the community, I feel a part of it. And so, have you done something to me? That would be the examples. Those would be the cases.
Done something and taking a certain chunk of who I am, what I have been living is pretty different. If you're saying like past events, you need to pinpoint specific things, and we can go in there and we can work them out.
I mean, I'm not a historian, and I don't hold on to it.
But in this case, is essential. Like you need to. I know you don't want to hold on to things, but if you're saying that you're losing the trust for someone, you gotta be why.
Okay. I don't trust your relationship with the earth.
Do it, Julian.
Okay.
This. I'm sorry. We are running out of time.
We have 40 minutes and
I generated
everyone has to
all of
speak.
this to be a communal conversation, not to be between two people. I want to hear all the voices. I specifically want to hear your reflection to what I said about us as a community and our foundation and what you were going to say. And yes, I am being a conversation master right now. I'm doing it.
You go, Pax.
Go for it.
no longer be a living member, a celebration. This is my 2-month notice.
Somebody in queue?
I don't think he's done. I am in queue.
Mark.
Might smoke until after the meeting.
I trust that you all will still view me as a brother. That's all I've got to say for the time being.
I would love to say something.
But it's a queue.
When we raise our hand, there's a cue, so there's like an order of.
Oh, okay. He nodded at me. I thought he was saying go for it. But sorry, yeah.
Who's on cue?
You decide, Pax.
Pax
You
is on
decide.
queue.
Oh, sorry, Pat.
You
But
decide. It's you're deciding.
I'm deciding what.
If you're gonna let Zach speak or not.
Well, I was on cue.
Well, go for it. Go for it.
I will. Yes.
Okay.
Lexi. Yes.
Great.
And then Sebastian and then Zach. We're gonna follow some law and order around here today. Yeah, I specifically wanted to hear from you, Conrad, actually. Just like I'm still waiting to hear from the people who haven't really had a chance to tell me and tell the collective their feelings about what I said. Because, Conrad, because specifically throughout this situation, Sebastian and the community, I've seen things come up from you, causing you to physically take space and leave. And, I can't guess what those things are, but what I see, like what I feel, is that like, to use the language that Sebastian was using, like, you are, like, in those moments, like, you wanted to say all the things in your heart and be a full agent, but, like, something about maybe, like, the 9 patterns, or your politeness, or your, like, wanting to stay calm, gave you the route to leave the situation rather than really stand up and really, like, tell somebody off in the way that I think you wanted to. And that would have, like, been cathartic and also been transparent. Like, and this is, like, there's no judgment here, and in those moments I did not judge you for leaving. I had no, like, feelings about it. I wasn't like, oh, Conrad's leaving, like, nothing like that. It's just, like, I see you doing the work to be a full agent right now. Like I'm witnessing it happen like day to day. And like my feeling is, or my question, I guess, in my heart is like, is this situation specifically the cause for you to leave, or is there happens to be like the most amazing opportunity that you want to do? And if this situation is the situation causing you to leave, like what is that going to mean for the lesson, like the heart lesson going on right now? Like I'm not worried about you. Like I know you're completely solid. Like I trust and respect you, like incredible, you know, like I really love you. But I just want to like ask the question and speak it out loud so that you can go and be alone and sit with it. Is like, is this what life is asking of you right now? To step up and like be completely unafraid to use your voice and to like affect this community to how you envision and dream us to be. Because I personally like, I feel your dream for the community, and it's also a dream that I want to live in as well. Like I see our dreams like Venn diagram, you know, completely overlapping. So I don't see any conflict between what I envision celebration to be and what you envision celebration to be. And I just wonder what this situation is calling you to step out of your comfort zone for, and like what it means. And like I said, I don't know any of the reasons that you're leaving. You haven't given us any of that, and so this is just based off of like my, not even as a community member, just as a fellow person on the path. Leave if you have to leave, stay if you want to stay, but like just I wanted to walk beside and point out what the path might be showing me right now. No,
Namaste
sorry.
to that person. And I mirror completely what you just said to this. 2 years ago, we were about to get the house, and you decided to be with them and, you know, create this possibility with them. And that was the generation of that situation created me sending that email about the blessed prisoners. How in that moment, when you interiorize things, you shut out. You don't get those confirmation signs as well from the outside. And once you arrive to a decision, you go for it. After you make a determination, you don't look back. But that decision comes only from mainly your interpretation. So greatly it's been, I don't feel that you're receptive from the outside in that regard. So it happened last time, and that was the email, and it happened again this time. I feel that that's what's happening.
You feel like me leaving now is
It's the same thing that Pax just said to Conrad.
You don't have to respond to what was just said. You can say whatever you were
Yeah,
feeling.
I wasn't planning on. I just wanted to give space for you if you wanted to speak to that. Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna let it sit for a minute.
Okay. And I jumped in because what you said, Conrad, played right into something that when I first really knew that there was any issue happening here, and this was when, you know, Sebastian and I spoke when we went camping a little while ago. And there's just a word kept coming through over and over and over again, and I finally shared with Sebastian, and it's coming up again. And you know, you speak of the agents, and agents hold that geometry, and that geometry creates the foundation. which then creates the nest or the container for people to become agents. Just because somebody is not an agent doesn't mean that they're not going to be an agent in some point in time. And I feel like the way to assist somebody in becoming an agent is compassion. And so your comments of going, I hope you guys still see me as a brother, even though I want to leave, that should never even be a question in your mind. Because absolute compassion for you, wherever you are, even if someone doesn't think you're an agent or someone doesn't think that you're whatever, no matter what anybody looks at anybody in a certain way, as long as you can hold compassion for them, you are being an agent and you are allowing that other person to be in their most highest state to become who they are. I like to look at things like children. You don't see a child, drop something that they're carrying and you get all over them and you scream at them, or they trip and fall when they're learning to walk and then you get all over their case. No, you get up and you help them and you encourage them and you have compassion for them to learn, because they're going to learn. Everyone's going to learn how to walk at some point in time. So I feel like one thing that's happening as I just sit back from being an observer here is that everybody's learning to walk. Some people are better at walking than others, but the only thing that's going to assist everybody being the best at who they are is for each person to have compassion for one another. And without that, there's not really, I think, a way for it to really succeed. So I would really encourage everyone to look in the mirror and say, am I holding this whole situation and these individuals in the highest level of compassion possible? And am I also holding myself with that same level of compassion? And if anything comes up with that, I think that's a beautiful one-on-one conversation to have with somebody to express, how they may not have been fully holding that compassion.
Thank you so much, man. Zach. That was
Welcome.
That rang my bells a lot.
That's a great one.
Well, I'd like to read a Martha Graham quote that I found on the floor of steam while I was cleaning that I think supports me in my decision to leave. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with others' expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. This is a way for me to keep my life force flowing. Like while living here, I've cut down on a lot of my belongings. I've let go of a lot of beliefs about myself. So I'm lighter than I was when I came here. And in that lightness, I think it's the right thing for me to move on for the time being. I don't know what the future will bring.
That's the best part.
always surprising.
Be free, little bee.
So I guess we have to determine what's gonna happen, right? Gotta make a choice. because I trust we can make it happen. I mean, remember the key is not the numbers, the key is the intensity, and sharing this understanding, sharing this insight is something unseen. This is not common. We are blessed. That's what we are blessed, and we need to be thankful. So it's not about the numbers, it's about the intensity to which we bring to the table, and the willingness and openness to trust, to try to trust, to want to trust, even though sometimes we fall not trust and wanting to trust. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you. I and I have been and will always be a pillar wherever I am, whether it's here or out there. I know that.
Say something? Was anyone in queue? I just wanted to say thank you for sharing. Thank you for being true to yourself. Thank you for following your intuition. And I love you to the ends of the earth. Seriously. And I know we've gone through some interesting times together, but I've already told you this before. I have no animosity for you. We have gone through some interesting times, and both of you, I'm very blessed to have gone through this with both of you, and I've searched, and there's no anger, no animosity, no jealousy, no clinging. You are both free from me, my shit. So I just wanted that to be expressed outwardly, because what we went through together is not easy.
Or usual.
Well, it's happened twice in this house already.
This is unusual.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that to the
very normal. That's true.
I just wanted to bring that to the forefront and like say that to you directly, because I don't want you to leave because of me, and I feel deep down that that's not the case. So I just wanted to express that to you, because I've had a lot of fun with you, and I've had an awesome experience building things together, and yeah, just know that I've told this to many people here, but you got a bed in my room if you ever need it. So
Thank you.
seriously,
I love you.
and love you too, brother, and to you as well, Lydia. Like I see you, and like this change has been coming, I feel like, for a while, and like this is it for you. I don't know why, I just sense this like need for change in you personally. I never really expressed it, but I just like felt something within me that said, like, Lydia, there's something that needs to happen or change for you to feel more imbibed in your truest self. And if this is that moment for you, like that, I'm all there for you, and I look forward to coming out and hanging out with you out there and like being present with you. And I just wanted to send you love and compassion on your way, because that's all I have for all of you.
I love you so much, Sylvain. You're my brother. Hey, Ben.
Yeah, we get to hug each other.
I'm feeling called to suggest that there's a possibility that we could just relinquish this house and let that go and focus on the station. I also feel pretty strongly that I don't really want to talk about this anymore. Like, to me, it's so clear. Every single conversation, it becomes clearer and clearer, and I cannot say that emphatically enough. And it is mostly clear that some people, like, the perspective and vision that they are seeing is not the same as mine, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But I think those two visions are so opposing that it's almost impossible to.
Can you speak clearly to those two?
What?
Can you speak clearly to those two distinguishing visions, please?
Well, I mean, just this entire circumstance, like this entire situation between Sebastian and I, and everything that has been brought up because of it. Like I said, I don't really want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to give any more information or opinions or insight or perspective for it to be talked about, unless you guys just want to talk about it. I am just like, I don't feel that it's going to get me anywhere. I don't think it's changing anybody's minds. I think some people are making the decision to not be a part of the conversation anymore, and I think that's totally like fair, and I understand. I feel there's a lot of like deeply contradictory and subconscious and like very psychological roots in everything that we're talking about. I do not have the energy to talk about it, but I know it's there, and like I understand it enough to recognize it, but I don't have the energy to talk about it. So to like constantly feel that, but to not be able to articulate it, it is absolutely exhausting. And so I don't know, like hearing the perspectives that have been given about how we move forward, and those that are leaving and those that are staying. I don't really know how we proceed. I feel confident that if it's me, Pax, and Julian over at that house, we could work our shit out. If there's anything that needs to be talked about, but I personally just don't want to continue to hash at this. I don't think it's going anywhere. But that's like.
Okay, are you in queue? Right now, I don't know if the room is not being read, but right now we're trying to determine who are the pillars. And with the pillars...
Who are the pillars?
The pillars of celebration, yes. The ones that are committed not to put their personal preference first. So those people are the ones that are celebration. They are the ones that decide what's going to happen with the houses, because as it was said at the beginning, there's plenty of people that want to live here. And I am not going to leave, because if this is what it comes to, if it all comes to one, after hearing these people voicing their own thing, voicing and being an agent unto themselves, and being able to be clarity, then I'll stay for those who will stay, and I will fight all the way to the end, and find the money to pay for whatever it takes to maintain this place afloat until we fill it up with people that share this perspective that now we have seen clear, that we have lived all of this experiment has come to this point when we find out what's the real true aspect of living in a community. And if you cannot live this, then you take, your choice. And if you were considering leaving, then it's, it's open, because already many people are doing it. But if you're not willing to be a pillar and undertake that, then,
But, see, that's the thing, is like, I am willing to be a pillar, and like, I think that everyone here at some point was willing to be a pillar. But when we project the expectations of what it is to be a pillar or an agent, or like anything like that on each other, that's when being a pillar feels like it doesn't fit us anymore, because it's sculpted by those around us, and there's just a lot there.
This
Wait,
is,
there's people on cue.
well, there's people in here.
Nick just raised her hand twice too.
I'm super open to the I'm very aware that a big pattern of mine is in taking things personally, and I'm very open to what I'm saying being that again. So, you know, I'm here to hear that. I'm just really curious. I feel like, again, this is like the way that I've expressed I wanted to leave has been like completely differently received as both Lydia and Conrad today. Like, I don't really understand why. But like you referring, and you've never brought this up to me before right now, which is another thing, of me leaving, being me running away. Or like, what? Can you maybe further elaborate?
I didn't say running away.
Can you tell me though what
That you're following your personal preference when you saw what's happening here.
Yeah. So I feel like I've been very clear about the reasons why I'm leaving right now. And a huge part of them was because I felt like a vacuum in the community, like unable to show up in the way that I want to and that I feel this beautiful place deserves, you know. And a lot of that, like, I hate to really like sound like a broken record here, but like I'm so fucking close to my health being back to normal. Like I'm so close. I feel it, you know. It's like 2 to 3 months. I'm like on this fucking like 7-month journey here, you know, like so close to being done, and like I need to go be by myself. Like I need to just worry about myself, and like I don't really want to feel like the people that I love are viewing that as me like taking personal preference. And like I have the ability to not internalize that, but it just feels really heavy on me when like a huge reason I am leaving is because I can't really do the community chores. I can't do the community cooking. I can't show up for the garden. Like I feel like I'm just like renting a room and like meditating and like kind of chilling out here, which is not how it was in the fall. It was not how it was when I moved in, you know. And so it's like I'm taking this time and space to like, because I love the shit out of all you and I love myself, to go and like do what I need to do so I can come back, you know. And I just am like really, it's been really hard on me because I feel like there's this like this level of like questioning my intentions, and like specifically from you, it was just not easy. Like it's not easy to navigate this space when I'm also still like, you know, I feel like I'm being viewed as a person who's able to be a full agent, when like that's really not true right now for me. Like I'm still figuring so much out. I'm putting so much like energy in my day to like trying to force myself to eat. Like that's honestly what it comes down to, is like most of my day is like me trying to convince myself to eat food. And like I'm not gonna lie, like that's what I think about most of the day, is like, all right, what can I get myself to eat? Like what can I do to take care of my body? And I'm finally getting there. And like for me to feel like my intentions are being questioned, or like I'm repeating a pattern, which like I'll be super honest, y'all, I was madly in love with a mentally ill person who I'm not blaming Ben at all, me, myself, I let it happen. You know, I fed into it. I stuck around. I chose to not come here to go live with him. And it, you know, honestly though, I would do it again because Ben taught me more about myself and what I deserve in this lifetime and like who I am and yeah, and like what I want for my path than any other person. Like he has taught me more about myself than any other person in my entire life. And like I would do it again. I would. As painful and as horrible as a lot of it was, I would do it again because I grew so much from it. And because it led me to where I felt like it was actually my time to be here. And I feel like I came when I was supposed to, and that the path unfolded exactly as it did. And that, you know, perhaps that one decision for personal preference led by, you know, misguided by an intense love and a desire and, you know, and a comfortability that came with that. That pattern unraveled in a way that has allowed me to release myself from a lot of those patterns. And so I don't feel bad about leaving because like I said, I love the shit out of all of you, and I'm gonna come back better, and like I'm doing the same thing again, you know, like I'm gonna be here being able to like be present for these conversations and not checked out because I haven't eaten in 2 days. Like that's where I'm at, you know, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing. I know you don't have a lot of energy to do that, so thank you for expressing what you needed to express. It's very helpful. People understand.
I know I stay completely to what you say, but I need to say something about that. I completely see the personal preference is not good or bad. It's out of the question. It's what we need to see in our way. It's like what happened to Hunter. He, in his way, he saw it and that he needed to make that choice and live the karmic repercussions of that choice. And as you said it, you went through those experiences and you experienced the karmic experience and made you who you are, the strong person that you are. So yes, no, the choice is not, you know, the choices are all valid. That's the free will. There is no good or bad in your choices. But being aware that it's personal preference. What I'm saying from personal preference is that what in this moment, the moment is requiring you, where you are, is the only thing that you have. This present moment and the things that are happening, you know. If you then have a projection of, oh, I would like to have an eco village, start creating an eco village with a land like this, which perfectly fits with Lisa, which is perfect, and it's going to be as successful, as beautiful as it will be, you know. But that's you following that projection, and that projection is as useful, and it's going to bring you, you know, positive and negative experiences in your life. So it's not the question whether it's right or wrong. The question is what this moment is presenting to you and how you're holding this situation and where you're able to go through the challenge of conflict. The level of conflict that is here, was that above what you could handle, you know, that you feel that you needed to take some time, space. So yes, life is throwing you this thing is because this is what you need. And that's the every moment, you know. But when you decide to do something else, to experience it in a different way, that's going to create a little bit of it's going to change a little bit the current, but you're still moving towards the same direction. It's just going to take you in a different path for a moment, you know.
It's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock.
We need to end this meeting in a hug regardless. So.
let's finish the queue. Let's go through. I'd like to speak one more time about more things going on. Actually, screw it, I don't need to talk. I know exactly what's going to happen. So, yeah, who was in queue?
I was on queue. I'm practicing and getting a hold of this whole being comfortable speaking, I guess in the way Sebastian does, where you are going to get every single last point and thought, and it doesn't matter how long or how many people are rolling their eyes, you're going to say everything that you feel that you need to contribute to the situation. So I need to verbalize Meg's, like, I completely respect, and like I don't resonate with what Sebastian, like the way that what I'm saying towards Conrad, I don't put towards you. Like out of everybody leaving, like I might even see you as like the most valid, and a lot of that is coming that you want to come back. Like Celebration is like why you're leaving Celebration for Celebration, so that you can come back later, and like maybe that will happen, maybe that won't, but also like you said, because that vacuum, because you want to contribute in ways that you like can't right now, and that's like that's for the collective. That decision is how I see it, from like how I've heard it and how I witness you, and just the imprint that you've had, not even in a full year of being here, just completely like shining, like you're the sun and we're all stars, and you like shine your light on this place so much. The second thing is, as we go around, I feel like we're all gonna do like a little like ending check-in, which is kind of maybe what Julian was getting at, but I don't know. But yeah, like each going around and like again, like, and like if people really just want to like come to me and talk about this, but like I don't want this to be a person-to-person conversation. I hoped to ask this so that everybody can collectively, so that the collective ears hear how people feel about what I said about like where is the heart of Celebration. What do we envision at this point now, not even like thinking of like what I thought it could be a month ago, but like right now, regarding everything that's gone down in these past 3 hours or whatever, 4 hours. That's just kind of what I would like to put out to people. I would like to hear it. You don't have to. So.
Does anyone else in queue?
I want to say something to that.
Okay.
Again, what I was saying is that right now we need to find out who are the pillars, who are the people. That's the heart of it. What I talked about, the personal preference, and we would be willing to be in the middle and always, the people that are willing to commit to that are the pillars of Celebration. The people that are willing to be their own agents and take an oath towards that, towards not carrying to the personal preference and being very keen into the observation of it, and speaking up when that is not being met. Discerning, the ability to discern. So if you feel empowered to do that every time you see it, not just to compromise, oh, this is my, I love her, but I don't want to hurt her, or I don't want to, no. So it's you say what is in your heart, and you say it as it is and as it comes, and all of us will figure it out. One particular perspective is just another reflection that is creating what we all see, and we all need to rely on the common reflection. So those pillars are the ones that are going to hold that common reflection. So those who are willing to be the pillars, those would be Celebration. Anybody that is not, they can take a choice, because this is not, we are here not asking people to surrender their ego, just to be open that the ego will dissolve itself on its own accord by just being and challenging these situations. Because as you see, the day of the deck, that critical point came about, I didn't even created it. You know, I was called. We were going to go to Mo's together. You know, I wasn't even planning to tackle that shit right there and then. You know, and it was brought onto it. You know, it was this explosion. It has been an explosion because everything is intensifying. We are a microcosm of the microcosm. And I see the situation in the world as a torus. You know, if you overlap the situation of everything intensifying, population and all of these situations, then you consider that this is, if you interpose the torus, this, we're going to go through this process where we all need to go through this transformation radically. And we need to imbibe it right now. And those who imbibe it right now and are willing to live in the present moment, those are the ones that are here to stay. So I'm here to stay, and I take note towards that. So those who feel empowered to do that.
I'm calling right now for like a wrap-up check-in. You can, if you feel called to respond to that oath question, so be it.
I do feel like that kind of took away. I wanted specifically people to tell me how they felt about what I brought up, and I did hear what you felt, and we heard about all that. But now you're putting this question for people to answer that's a little bit more specific, and it's not, I'm not going to get to hear the community reflection so much on like us as an organism. Like, I'm not saying people shouldn't answer, go ahead, but I just want to call it, that's what I'm feeling, is like that kind of just like.
So you'd like an answer to like the communal whole, like what are we doing, where are we going, or where's each person going with the community in mind? Is that what you are asking? I'm just trying to clarify the understanding of like what you want to get from people so that we can be very clear if we're going around in a circle.
I want people to just show me their hearts. Like, I need to connect. I need to feel with my heart, and I need people to let me feel their hearts with my heart about this phenomenon that we are living right now. Not only celebration as a community with history and as an organization, but this phenomenon of this moment and like where we're all sitting and how it feels.
I hear you on that. But the thing is that in order to find out what's going to happen, we need to know the why.
I'm not asking what's going to happen.
But Pax, you said when you spoke earlier today that you have no plans for the future, that you saw celebration to be what you wanted to be, what you were, and you were willing to give your best at it. You know, that is the oath, that is the thing, that is being right here with what we have created.
No, I understand the oath. They're just two separate things, and I just don't.
I don't understand. So if we figure out if we figure that out, then everything else unravels from there. That's where celebration was founded from the very beginning, and not catering to the individual preferences.
It's also the way in which you ask the question, and I think that's what Pax is trying to say, is like she would rather have someone speak from their heart.
No, please don't talk for me. That is not what I'm saying.
Well, then I don't understand.
I don't understand
I
either.
understand that you guys don't understand. So
Okay.
just listen with your heart.
Okay.
Really. really. I'm not asking who's committing to staying at Celebration and who's committed to being here. I'm asking how people feel, right? Every single person, whether or not they're staying or leaving, every person here about whether or not they're staying and committing, what lies at the very center of all of this? What is the why of why we're doing all of this? You know, what is that
For them?
thing?
For them? For each one of us?
Yes, for each one of us. I want, like I said, I want to hear, I want to be able to feel what people are feeling. I'm open right now. I myself am open to receive from each person so that I can feel what this moment feels like for all of us, so I feel connected. I have felt separate this whole week, because I don't know what's going on for other people throughout all of this, and I know that nobody has been going on what's been going on with me, and before this meeting ends, I want to feel how people are, what this feels like, not getting too far into it, like looking at, like it just takes looking at people in the eyes, you know. It doesn't take the words as much. It's not about what we think we're going to do, you know. It's like, what is all of this? What is it that we're dealing with? If you understand what I'm saying, raise your hand and okay. Okay. That's okay.
Could you please explain to me what she's saying?
She's trying to get everyone to check in with how they're like feeling, you know, like what's going on in your body right now, and like your heart, you know, what does your heart space feel like, and just trying to get a sense of where people are energetically versus, you know, through conceptual conversation.
I feel like I have a grasp of you.
Go ahead.
If you were going directly on that, then you should speak, because I was going to go into answering mine.
Oh yeah, I will then. Yeah, I feel like there's really only two decisions. Either we're all on the same team, or we're not all on the same team. That's it. You know, we've got everybody here has chosen to be here on this planet right now. We've got how many 8 billion people here right now. Are we all here together, or are we all against each other? That's really the only question that it all comes down to. And if we're all here together, then all there is for one another has got to be support and compassion. And, you know, I think you did a prime example, Megs, and you did too, of sharing, these are my needs. You know, yes, personal preference regardless, you feel like you need to be alone. Fantastic. Well, then that's what's going to make celebration the best. Then you need to do that, and all we can do is support you and have compassion for that. You said you don't want to talk anymore. All right, cool. If that's your need to not talk, then we can have compassion for that and understand where you're at and be able to appreciate that. So having that agreement that we're all on the same team, what are your needs? Let's figure out how we can support one another. Do your needs coincide with the mission statement of celebration? If so, fantastic. If not, hallelujah. I'm going to support however we can support, you know? I feel like that's the real essence of where we're at right now. And it reminds me of a community that I lived at, and it was called The Nest. And the whole thing was, it was not about people coming and staying for a long time. It was a nest where you learned about yourself and you came to leave. That was the whole purpose, was just to be supported and growing and then flying from the nest. So I think these, you know, the agents that we speak of and these pillars are all people that are holding that container for the nest for people to come and grow and learn. And if they want to stay and be a part of the branch that's woven into the nest, hallelujah. If not, fantastic. You know, we're excited to come see your nest that you create, you know. So I feel that's important.
If I can say something real quick, I feel like this is fair, although I'm saddened by it. I made it very clear from the beginning that I was going to have to leave by 5, and it's past 5. It just makes me really sad. I don't want to leave. But something is really important.
She got you. Support that.
You guys someone can call me and I can like put my headphones in as I'm gathering my stuff if I can be a part of it that way. But I just feel like really strongly, and this is one of the points where I'm seeing like that our visions are not aligning, not everyone's visions, but just some perspectives, is like boiling everything down to personal preference, or communal insight, just feels very nonsensical to me. Because ultimately we created celebration, as personal preference. We just all happen to be sort of on the same page, and maybe not everybody was on the same page about everything, but that's how we created it. And we continue to sculpt it based on individual preference, but a lot of the things were on the same page. And again, some things were not. And so, like, again, it feels nonsensical, and that's what I'm like tired of. It's the whole thing I've been saying like this whole time. So I want everyone to feel supported and showing up to celebration in the way that they can and want to, and not the way that I think they need to, because of my perspectives on the spiritual path or like how communities work best or anything like that. Like, I don't feel like it's sustainable to put that pressure on people, and I feel like we're going to keep running into this the more we harp on personal preference versus communal preference. I think that's the piece of harmonizing that has been missing, and I think is pushing people away. And maybe there's perfect individuals that we could get in here and that everybody would be on the same page the entire time, and that would be fantastic. So it would seem as though nothing's personal preference because it's all communal. But I don't know. There's a lot more to be said. I'm gonna stop talking now. I love you all very much.
Who wants to call you?
Yeah, if somebody wants to call me, I don't want, like, that's not a have to. If I can be a part of it in that way, I will happily do so. Yeah.
I want to hug too. You're gonna be gone for a while.
Tell your mom I said hi.
Okay.
Tell that dog I said hi. That pug.
Tell her we say what's up.
That smush face. Ellie, there we go. Tell her to breathe. That's what she needs to hear.
If I could say one more thing, just with kind of what you were your question path that you posed. Was there, when Celebration was created, was there a mission statement or intention or anything?
Yeah.
Is that, would it be productive to read that and see if there's a on this still? That's what's on the wall there? Okay. Is it concise enough to make it pretty easy to, okay. Just wonder if that could help.
Yeah, it's been with us, in front of us, in our faces, staring at our faces the whole time. These are, understand our direction and dissolve our egoistic patterns. That's how we achieve harmony. And we understand our direction by knowing the limitations, understanding the limitation of systems and society. Right? That's how we see our destination. We see the limitations, then we see that the present moment, what we are creating here is as valuable as anything and is the most important thing that you can be creating in this moment. And that's how I feel about celebration. And then you dissolve your egoistic patterns, and then we put right there, it says co-reflection and meditation. Co-reflection and meditation. So in order to be co-reflection, there's going to be that openness that you were talking about. So yes, it's been there.
I feel like Pax needs our support, and we should honor her question. I feel like that's important.
Yes.
It's important to know the needs of our loved ones, our family members, and hear them.
I think for me, in my experience, that's something that's been missing this whole process, this whole last couple of months has been the compassion. I don't feel like we've all acted like we're on the same team. I really don't. And like I said, I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm saying from my perception, it feels very, to me, divisive. A lot of the ways that things have been unfolding. And I really appreciate you bringing that about, because
You ready? Or is it too soon?
that's something I personally feel really affected by, is like a lack of like gentleness
I'm
or
gonna put Rob on speakerphone.
like a lack of compassion, or even like wanting to fully understand where the other person's coming from. And so that's just something to speak that feels very real for me, and that feels heavy on me as I'm leaving, because I don't feel a lot of compassion among all of us right now. I felt it there. It's been there, and it was really, really beautiful, and I feel the shift is heading us, potentially in a positive way back towards that full compassion and love and trust for each other, but it's not something that I have felt in the recent past has been present. And I have heard that also reflected, but I'll just speak from my own personal experience.
There is an important aspect of compassion that has been passed down through the sages over and over again. That compassion not necessarily means tendering to the personal preference of the individual. That sometimes there has been stories of masters taking, in Zen Buddhism, taking their disciples and throwing them out of the window, so they fall into the rocks. And that was compassion. Jesus Christ, one of the things that Christians cannot understand or cannot put together is that he came into the temple with a whip and started whipping the people and the money tenders and the people that were doing things in the temple for compassion. You know, so is compassion being offside the truth? You know, is not being, is what we are experiencing. I think compassion would be that if somebody goes out of the way to tell you how to be, you know, hey, you are doing this, and you know, like how we describe it when we were on the board, to rub shit in your face, you know, basically that's some compassion. But if through these experiences, through these challenges that life is throwing at you, you have to come to, like in my say, I come through these things from the inside. These things are insights that come through me, and that's how I find the answers, and that's how we, and as we all, when we all are pillars, we're all going to be doing the same thing, you know, contributing the same thing. And yes, it's going to, the painful process of deconditioning, yes, it's going to be painful, but we have compromised with it. And yes, so for some of us, we require different, we might require some like as we were saying, we're not all the same. You know, we might require some rest and some time of integration, that perhaps as you're voicing it, that's how I understood it, that, you know, that aspect of it, of your personal, what you need, you know, that you're going to honor it to that, and that you need some space, and that's completely understandable, you know. But, you know, the people here, you know, the common thing is that, are we willing to put our utmost into here and go to that degree of commitment to be righteous, to be virtuous with our words, with our actions, so that they resonate, and the tension that we're creating, this beautiful and dynamic, will resonate and will attract more and more individuals. People like Shane, like for example, the thing that Shane's gonna come here, I'm like, that to me just in itself was a sign, you know. I mean, that's incredible. But
Sean.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I understand.
Well, I just, in prompting me to, you know, I was reflected upon today that I don't use my voice, so I'm going to do that now. I feel like a lot of times I speak and Sebastian responds with things that, whether I resonate with or not, and then that's the end. And I would like to hear from other people if, instead of a response in Sebastian and a response in Sebastian, which I love and respect and want to hear what you have to say, I personally feel like there's a pattern of that happening, a person speaking and then Sebastian speaks and then it's done. And so I would like to call forth, if anyone else resonates with what I said about a lack of compassion, or the opportunity, instead of maybe viewing it as a lack, the opportunity for more compassion, or if that word, you know, like you said, is perhaps not what I'm looking for. I feel like there can't always just be friction, and there has to be space, and space for us to hold each other, and maybe that's what I'm more getting at than compassion, is like the space for us then to be held and to experience a feeling of the true feeling of acceptance that comes from, you know, after the friction, after the creation of that compassionate moment. After that, that's where I feel a lack right now. I feel like this place has done a beautiful job co-reflecting on me, and that, yeah, like you said, I've become lighter, I've grown more, I've like relinquished a lot of shit. But as I'm leaving, I'm gonna be honest, I feel really heavy about myself here. Like I feel like all these things have been reflected, and that I'm leaving, you know, with that, and that's gonna really be a beneficial and incredible part of my path. But that's the tone I'm leaving with, is like I need to grow. Like I don't feel like I've been, and I don't feel like I've seen for other people a community space for like the night that we had with our ceremony, you know, when we were all there just like literally holding each other and like letting each other cry and like getting through stuff. It's like I feel like it's just intensity, bam bam, like patterns, reflections, co-reflections, fucking work on yourself, and then it's like I'm fucking exhausted, like, and I don't feel very good about myself, you know. So like, where's the space for us to like be there and hold each other and like let us go through the emotional side of like the very clear like egoistic patterns that need to be broken, because it is a process. It's not just like I've been reflected on and now I'm gonna change and I feel good about it. Like, no, I need the space to, you know, I've created the space and I've been holding myself in the space, but I feel like I'm getting to the point where I can't look around and see everyone just like trying really hard to keep themselves afloat. And I felt that in really personal one-on-one conversations that I've had, that I'm not the only one feeling this way.
But you're speaking for others.
Right now I'm speaking for myself.
But that statement was speaking for others. If you allow others to voice their things now, I think it will be helpful.
You're exactly displaying what she was.
I'm just clarifying that specific aspect. You know.
I feel like you just took a tiny bit of like the very end of what I said, and
I hear everything that you're saying, and I honor it, and I honor it completely.
Well, Allison is on cue then.
She is.
So
I didn't see it.
Let's
I see
be.
it.
Yeah, Megs, I feel a lot of what you're saying, like, even just sitting in on this one meeting, like, I'm heartbroken. I feel like I'm gonna start crying. This is exhausting. This is so exhausting, and it's so painful to, like, see things playing out this way. And I can understand, like, why people feel like they just can't do it anymore. Like, I can't even imagine myself doing this every week. Like, this is a lot. And I think there is, like, a lot of compassion missing in it. Like, I'm glad you said the word, like, divisive. It feels very divisive. It feels very oppositional. It feels like people are taking sides and joining teams, and, like, oh, it's like this group against that group, and they think different things, and like, I just, I don't know. I just, like, I look at you, Megs, and I look at Love, and I look at Hunter, and it, like, I feel like I can see exhaustion, and it's really tiring, and I don't even know that I can add much more clarity to the situation than that, so I'll probably just end it there. But that, like, to your point of, like, how is everyone feeling, like, it's heartbreaking, and it, yeah, I feel like I just want to have a time machine and turn back the clock and remember when everyone was happy. I don't know.
Anybody? Are you raising?
She raised her hand.
Okay.
Maybe Allison. Yeah. And we knew this like when we first thought of celebration, like we knew the fact that like the reason, like the number one by far reason that communities fail is interpersonal things. Like it's not like not having enough money or like whatever, it's like interpersonal stuff is why communities dissolve.
I just want to offer this insight that I've told you guys before, but like my psychologist has told me over and over again, this is a community counselor for 25 years. The reason communities fail is because of lack of autonomy and lack of individuality. That's it. From her perspective, and like I said, 25 years. Sorry to interrupt you. I just really wanted to say that and make it clear that
Does she live in a community?
What'd you say?
Does she live in a commune?
She doesn't personally, but she's on a council that has worked internationally to help sustainable communities become sustainable. And that's the identifier of why they fail.
Get her in here.
Guys. Well,
I'm cute.
Oh, sorry.
Are you done, Pax?
Yeah, did you done?
But I might have to be because I kind of lost what I was saying.
You're saying communities interpersonal, and because of interpersonal relationships, when we first started this thing, we knew that.
Yeah.
You said thank you, Allison.
Yeah, this is something that I noticed firstly in, interpersonal stuff, not being able to find a way to live with each other. And that interpersonal drains the vitality to be able to do things like the garden, and like finishing or like following through on projects and stuff like that. I talked with Megs about, you know, maybe something that we need as a community, and like I don't know exactly how this would look, but would be a period where we all collectively agree that any reflection that we're doing is either personal, just like our own personal reflection, or possibly like if we really need like another one-on-one kind of reflection, but a time period of like 2 or 3 weeks. And this is obviously before I knew that everybody's leaving, but 2 or 3 weeks where we don't have the expectation, or we actually have the expectation not to be doing communal reflecting. And as a really rare thing, like not as a regular thing at all, but I